I call this board meeting of Havre Public School District 16 and 8 to order. Will Lorraine please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Everyone is present, Mr. Chair, except for trustee De La Vega and trustee Ingram.
Welcome to the September 10th meeting of the Havre School District Board of Trustees. A copy of tonight's meeting agenda is on the table near the door. At this meeting, the board takes official action on agenda items. Items of information and discussion may also be on the agenda. Comments will be solicited from the audience throughout the meeting. Following introduction of the agenda item, the board chair will recognize those who wish to speak to the item. If you have comments, please come to the microphone so that the board can hear you. Following input from the public on a given item, the board may ask questions, and public input will cease and board deliberations will begin. The board is bound by district policy, negotiated agreements, and Montana statute. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of involving members of the public in its meetings. The board also recognizes statutory and constitutional rights of the public to participate in government operations. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy when providing comment. The board is not authorized to hear comments on contested cases or other educative proceedings or personnel matters. The board has developed policies and procedures to process concerns about programs, curriculum, learning materials, and personnel. The public will be given an opportunity to bring to the board general questions and comments immediately following items of new business in the public comment portion at our board meeting. The board may not take any action on matters brought to the attention of the board during this period unless specific notice of that matter is included in a properly noticed agenda. Therefore, in the public comment portion of the meeting, the board will not discuss or take any action, but may refer a matter presented to a future agenda. Thank you for attending our meeting. We have a presentation.
Yes, Toby, would you like to come up to the mic? So as you guys remember last year, we started the Pony Pride Awards. And then as we closed out the year, Toby was our last winner of this monthly award. And so she's going to kick us off to start off the school year. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gum. A few days ago, Mr. Gum came to me at Highland Park and said, my days of being queen of the district are over. So I do have to pass on the award to someone else. I have worked with this amazing woman for a number of years. I don't think she has ever had a bad day. She is always willing to go above and beyond the regular work duties that she has to help others that need it. She takes every student's education very serious. She even takes the time to teach students to speak Spanish. I could go on forever about how amazing this lady is, but I will just say one more thing. Highland Park really enjoys potluck days because she's an amazing cook. It is my pleasure to pass the Pony Award to Mrs. Jeffrey.
Do you have anything that you would like to share with us?
Good evening, everyone. I'm just grateful and honored to receive this Pony Award.
Thank you. If we have, we'll get a picture. Are there any agenda deletions or corrections?
None at this time.
The unanimous consent agenda will now be presented for the board. Before the chair entertains a motion to accept the unanimous consent agenda, is there any board member with a request to remove any items from the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve unanimous consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by Garrett and seconded by Kevin that we approve the unanimous consent agenda as presented. Does any member of the audience wish to speak to the motion? Does any member of the board wish to speak to the motion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes unanimous. Agenda item C1, safe return to schools and continuity of service.
Yeah, there are no changes to the safe return to schools and continuity of service plan, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. D1, out-of-state travel requests.
Perfect. So our first out-of-state travel request, as you'll notice in tonight's items of new business, we have two of those. The first one is coming from our middle school. So I'll have the principal, Kurt Leeds, come speak directly on that.
Good evening, Board Chair and Board of Trustees. This will be either the 8th or 9th, depending on, I can't remember if they went during COVID or not, to the Florida. But the 8th or 9th year that Mrs. Parsons has taken up her time in the summer to take students down to Florida and have them learn some things that they just can't learn in Montana. So hands-on experience, learn some microbiology, and it is at zero cost to our district. They do all the fundraising themselves, and it's just an excellent opportunity for our students who are going to become freshmen at the end of this year to get some hands-on experience. Any questions?
I went on the trip this summer and it was a blast. It was definitely a learning experience for a lot of the kids, whether it was the very first thing we did, which was to fly. For half of them had never flown before.
Right.
So that was a whole new experience, and Miss Parsons has been doing this long enough that she totally had them completely under control. It was no big deal. And even coming back when we were on the verge of missing a flight, she was cool and collected. It just went so
Handled it.
smooth.
Good.
It was a great trip.
Good.
So.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you hear a lot of really good things with it.
And right now there are only 13 kids, but you know, Mrs. Parsons, she's always recruiting, so she's trying to get more. So, thank you for your consideration.
Does anybody? Any other questions, comments about the trip? Not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve item D1, the out-of-state travel request for Havre Middle School for the trip to Florida as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Kristen and seconded by Lorraine that we approve agenda item D1, out-of-state travel request for middle school science trip as presented. Does a member of the audience wish to speak to the motion? Does any member of the board wish to speak? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 6-0. D2, library variance renewal application.
Yes, I'd like to recommend the approval of the library variance renewal application. A little history with this. In 2022, Superintendent Mueller filled out this process for the first time for the library variance application. What that is it allows us the opportunity at the high school, even though we're over 500 students, to still just have one full-time librarian versus 1.5. So as soon as you get into over 500 to 1,000, which is quite a jump, right? Then you would have to have at least a halftime. Then after 1,000, you would have to have two full-time librarians. So when I visited with Ellery Bressler at OPI about this, she confirmed that even though now, as we start out the year and have her high school in the 530s, even if we get down to 501, she said she had a feeling that that would still be looked upon favorably in terms of acquiring this variance, just based on we're not like at a level of 600 yet. We also talked about how it could be difficult to anytime you want to try to find a halftime position for anything. That's not always an easy grab. So we went through, I filled out all the paperwork with this, got all the supplementary documents, and then pending your approval, we'll send that off to OPI tomorrow.
Any questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the library variance renewal application as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Garrett and seconded by Lorraine that we approve the library variance as presented. Does any member of the audience wish to speak to the motion? Does any member of the board wish to speak to the motion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 6-0. D3.
Yes, so this is the USDA Smart Snacks vending machine. While I recommend the approval of the Smart Snacks vending machine to be located in Havre High School for the 24-25 school year, I believe Andrew Hansen is here tonight to speak on this. Is that correct? So we've just kind of visited over email and on the phone, so I've never actually met him in person, but I was assuming. Perfect. If you would like to come on down, sir. So what we thought is we would have Andrew just kind of give you a little overview of what this process would look like, including his contract that is before you. I also, Andy, just so you know, had a copy of kind of some of the items that could be placed in the vending machine for a board to look at. So that way they kind of have that and they can pass that kind of down so they can see everything as we go through that process. But I'll let you take it over from here.
Yeah, we just was interested in possibly putting in a vending machine in the high school for athletes, also students that are staying late with no options for a healthy food snack. Athletes that are there early in the mornings and late at evening, giving them that option for just an extra boost. And then the contract is, so we do 10% of our profits back to what the school decides where the money should go. And then I have on there as, you know, if everything's going well, we meet at the end of the year. If everything's going good and we continue the contract. But other than that, it's kind of a straightforward, refill them once a week, me and the kids do. So this is all USDA approved through our vendor, so.
Andrew, do you do this program with other schools in the area?
Yeah, we just picked up Chinook.
Okay.
Is this a kind of a new thing that they're doing for the healthy snacks type, thing option?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So was a bit confused about it, on what to put in there. And then I reached out to Vistar and they have everything broke out per what the USDA requires for schools. And so they have a whole list of everything you can go down and order. But yeah, it's all gotta be, you know, that health snack. You know, you can't put Snickers and stuff in there, unfortunately.
So is it all dry food or, I mean, in the sample, there was dry food with like refrigerants, things like that. What's the vending machine we're using? Is it just one that has all of it or what?
No, it'll just be dry food.
Okay.
It'll go for, range
The
from
snack.
chips to crackers to, they make, you know, protein bars, granola bars.
Okay. So you're just looking at the dry, yeah, a
Yep.
snack one instead of a, okay.
What's the average price point?
So everything's below $2. They're usually crackers, I think right now are 75 cents. The protein bars are $1.75. I think the most that we sell is, there's a Cliff Bar, and I think that was like $2.50. But that's kind of hit and miss. And we'll have a credit card reader on there.
I remember when vending machines were all under $1, but you can't buy anything for $100, so
No.
I understand.
And then Andrew, just so you know, too, regarding if the board did decide to move forward with this, from our legal standpoint too, I'd send your contract that you gave me off to our legal counsel just to review.
Yep.
And if there was any adjustments they saw or any modifications, then I'd be in contact with you, just so that you're aware that, that's just kind of a part of our contract process.
Perfect.
Okay.
Good.
Any other questions or?
All right. Thank you.
The vending machine being the main foyer then?
No, it'll be, so there's those chains that, you know, in front of the concession, there's those chains. It'll be in the back, probably over by the pop machines in the back area. You don't want it interacting with sports functions where you have concessions and you might as well keep them all in one area.
That makes sense.
And a couple of things just on the contract, I guess, that I would like if we decide to move forward, just to point out, says the 10% would be paid to an organization set by the school district. I guess my question would be that, could that go directly to the school district? And then when it says can be paid monthly or yearly, I guess, you know, I would like to see that spelled out, what the plan is for when that would be paid. So that everybody kind of is operating under the same
Timeline on
expectations, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve item D3, the USDA Smart Snacks vending machine request upon review by our legal team of the contract.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Kristen and seconded by Lorraine that we have approved agenda item D3, USD Smart Snacks, and we probably need to change that to the vending machines
Yeah.
instead of vending.
I know
Upon review of our legal, pending review of our legal team. Does any member of the audience wish to speak to the motion? Does any member of the board wish to speak to the motion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 6-0. D4, out-of-state travel request.
Okay, I recommend the approval of the out-of-state travel request for high school marching band and color guard to Utah, November 1st through the 3rd, 2024. Dustin?
So on that previous out-of-state travel request, should we have only had a 5-person vote because it was middle school? So could we adjust that record to be a 5-0 vote?
And just leave it there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just thought about that. as
Right,
soon as
kind of
I
after
saw
the Kelly did vote on that. Yep.
You guys see the letter in there from Colin and then my support letter. They're leaving on pending approval. They're gonna leave on support. It's a support Friday. Come back on Sunday. So the missed academic time is minimal. The cost, they're gonna cover most of it, as you see in that letter. The cost of the district is going to be approximately $1,100. Leela estimates 264 gallons at $4 for 1,056. That'll come out of the general fund transportation. Thank you, Scott. So gonna take 48 kids. They academically need to be eligible to do so. He took some kids to Idaho State 2 years ago. He'd like to go every other year if he had his way. Jeremiah went 2 years ago with them. And our kids, fit in with, there aren't a whole lot of marching band competitions in Montana, as you guys are aware. So it gives our kids some exposure out of state, and our kids fit in with schools twice our size. So we request travel.
Do we have somebody pull a trailer for all of the equipment? Or
That's
do
what
we
they did
fix-
yeah, they'll have to do that, yeah.
Is that usually one of the parents?
Yeah.
Or?
It's a good experience for our kids, there's no doubt about that. The minimal cost to us, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds like an impressive event that they have the opportunity to participate in, so that's
Yeah.
exciting.
So is it just kind of a 1-day competition, or is it like a day? And a
My
half?
understanding is it's one day, is that right, Jeremiah? Yeah, that's what I thought, all on Saturday. So. You guys have seen our marching band, I mean, it's a ton of work those kids put into it, and it's gives them a chance to compete a little bit. Which is healthy, I think.
That's great.
Yeah, so thanks for the consideration, appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you had a question, I'd stay here, if not, I'll. Boogie.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kraske?
Thanks for the consideration.
Any thoughts or comments on the trip? Okay. If not, I would entertain a motion.
Chair. Oh, well, go ahead, Lorraine. I'll make the motion that we approve the out-of-state travel request for the Havre High School marching band.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Lorraine and seconded by Kevin that we approve the out-of-state travel request for the Havre High Marching Band. Does any member of the audience wish to speak to the motion? Does any member of the board wish to speak to the motion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. Yeah, because it's high school. Yeah, the other one was middle school and we should have identified that. So let's do that again. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 6-0. We'll get this figured out, yeah. Agenda item D5, personnel.
Yes, I recommend your approval of the personnel items as indicated. So in this case, you know, as you see, we have a separate pullout for this situation, just based on the dynamics of the potential person that would be hired and a member of our school board. And so we followed all the correct procedures in terms of the nepotism law and following through with that. So that's why it's in kind of a separate category tonight.
Okay.
So to make sure, right, I don't vote on this one, right? Because it's
Correct.
my relation? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the personnel as presented.
Sarah, second.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Kevin and seconded by Lorraine that we approve the personnel as presented. Does any member of the audience wish to speak to the motion? Does any member of the board wish to speak to the motion? All those in favor, minus Garrett, raise your hand. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, with that, we come to the public comment portion of our meeting. This is an opportunity for any member of the audience to bring to the attention of the board questions or relevant comment concerning school district matters not on the agenda. The board may not take any action on matters brought to the attention of the board unless specific notice of that matter is included in a properly noticed agenda. Therefore, in the public comment portion of the meeting, the board will not discuss or take any action, but may refer a matter presented to a future agenda. If you have comments, please come to the microphone so that the board can hear you. Are there any persons present wishing to comment at this time? Okay. If not, we'll move on to agenda item E1, the enrollment report.
Yes. So I just wanted to kind of brief you on where our enrollment, if you remember last year, we started our enrollment trends and what that looked like over a series of the past 5 years. So I rolled that previous year off so we can start to kind of examine where we're at now. The new count when we do this, and you have to keep in mind on these counts, they're changing daily. So when a number is pulled on this, it might be different later that afternoon. It could be different that next morning, just based on the information then that Molly gives us at that set window of time. So when it was initially pulled, we were at 1824, right? But we're also factoring in 56 Hooterite students that last year were not on our enrollment count. And then based on the enrollment trend, if you look down 1783, what that was actually from the number that it shows on this report to what then Molly then had in her records based on students who then actually were in attendance was different. The net difference in this after we've kind of went back and forth to get an accurate read is about, we're up 7 students from last year at this time is where that truthfully is. And so that number of the 56 colony students, while we get to hold them and we get to house that A and B for a time, as Moses and I, as we've navigated that with both colony leaders, we'll pass through that money over to Rocky Boy once that money starts to come in based on that. But the good news is right now we're seeing an uptake in enrollment. Today in visiting with Kelly, she was registering 3 more students at Havre Public Schools. So the trend right now that we're seeing for enrollment is definitely going up. So it's positive.
So since the Hooterite students are included in that 1824 number, when you guys break that number down by school building, are you just assigning so many Hooterite students as to what school they would have
So
been?
they're grouped right now under Sunnyside.
Okay, all
Yep.
under Sunnyside. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So that's why there's that.
That's why
giant
there's that
increase.
big jump on Sunnyside.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
It's like, man, Sunnyside, well, we have a huge. fourth
We're
grade
rocking
class
it.
coming in there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that would make sense as to why we're.
Yeah.
Is it possible to make like another box? It's like Sunnyside Colony? Just so that you could see ours without. having
Sure.
to try and
Sure.
subtract
Yeah,
50
no,
from
I mean, I
that.
could make an adjustment. I'll just make a note of that, Garrett, for.
Just because it'd be
for next
easier on
month.
the eye,
Mhm.
because like, yeah, you're trying to run the math. and
Sure.
Then you can look by school.
Sure.
So how did our kindergarten, Now that we're a little bit in, where did that kinder, because that was a huge concern in August.
It was. Haley, did you want to?
But we did hit that 120 mark, which was a
Yeah,
huge
we did.
goal for,
Yeah.
for that, for your building, so.
140 mark, which is where I think historically we've been.
At 120, what does that put our class size at? Just a rough ballpark, do you remember? Right, a nice number. I mean, it's not small, but it's not, we're not pushing that 20 mark either, so. Okay.
That's a good thing.
Any other comments or questions on our enrollment? Okay. If not, agenda item E2.
Sure. So we'd been talking previously on some thoughts on bus drivers and what are we going to do, as this isn't just a situation in Havre, but typically across country. I know when I was in running, doing what Scott does, you're always trying to creatively figure out ways to generate more bus driver interest for what they do. And so Scott and I have kind of been bouncing across a few good ideas, and he's got some thoughts he wanted to share with you, as well as talk about then some of the water situations that have cropped up and some thoughts we have moving forward with that. So Scott?
Okay, let's see, start with the buses, I guess. We've got 5 drivers that are in their mid to late 70s. We're not gonna have a problem. We're gonna have a huge problem eventually. And it's not gonna be, when it happens, it's gonna happen quickly. And right now, we've had signs out all summer. We have not been able to pick up a driver. We're gonna have to start thinking outside of the box. And some of the things that other districts are doing, some people are throwing money at it, some people are throwing insurance at it. Some people are splitting their drives up. Some guys will come in the morning and drive a route, and another one will do it in the afternoon. I had some success with that. We were able to get 2 gals, both working in the district, both had a CDL, and we had them split a route. They were able to cut some of their other duties, and we picked up a route that way. We are 1 route down from where we were last year, or we just don't have the drivers. We're overcrowded. If I could get another one, I would do so. I've sat down and crunched some numbers. I really don't want to spit those out. I guess what I'd like to do is maybe think about getting a committee with some people on the board and taking some serious looks instead of me just telling you, we got a problem. I guess that would be my suggestion. There's talks of having teachers being able to do one. I guess myself as a teacher, I think that would appeal to a young teacher. And I think when you're a young teacher, your plate should be full. And that's your biggest growth time. I would hate to say that you're gonna, in order to make it, you've got to drive bus and teach. I know that we might be there, but I just think for the teaching part, I'm not a big fan of that. Anyway, those are the transportation issues we've got. Right now, I could really use another activity driver. I've got a guy on the line. I think I've got him all the way in. He just got to get the background. They got to do a background check on us. It's a border patrol gentleman, and if they take another job, they've got to vet that job. So we're being the ones checked out to make sure that we're okay. And if that happens, then we'll be in a better spot with our activities. Right now, we're thin on that. We're pulling our route drivers, and it's tight. It's tight. Today, I have my mechanic driving. And tomorrow I've got the other guy driving, activity truck. So we're stretched as far as we can't go farther and provide the service we're doing. So my suggestion is we get together and get a community and spitball some stuff and get somewhat seriously about getting ready for paying the piper. Anyway, that's the transportation portion. The water. Found out a lot about water when we didn't have any.
when we can still water at the high school football field, the practice field, and we can water the north side of the building. That comes off our well. The south side, the soccer fields. You guys know that little part that jugs into those houses over there? Okay, that's the city's. And years ago, they made an agreement, we would take care of it. Soccer would use it and the city would let us water those fields. So those fields are not on our well and our well can't support them. Our well is doing everything it can to get the practice fields in the north of the building. So when the city water goes off, the soccer fields go down too. Sunnyside, that's another well we have, so we can keep that grass up and it looks nice. The guys have done a great job. Middle school. We would love to have a well, but we've punched 3. And the guy I talked to said, I punch wells for a living and I wouldn't put one there. He's tried twice. I thought down in this corner, he says, yep, we did it. No luck. So, I think we came up dry here. So we're stuck on city water here when we get shut down. Pony football field, we could probably put a well there and we'd probably hit water, but that water has high iron. Anything it hits with the sprinklers turns it rust. So all those buildings would have a big rust stain on them. I came from the LEPC meeting, was it local emergency planning committee, today, and they were talking about the water. We're probably going to be, worst case scenario will be like this through summer next year. But we're on the way to being back where we were shortly. I guess I wouldn't panic and try to punch a well and make a long-term problem when I think it's a short-term issue. But that's my take on the water. Any questions?
I think the well idea was more for just with the amount of grass we've got.
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
There's a huge area, but
And
Yeah.
then when you have a lake out there, you think possibly you could
Yeah.
punch it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, come to find out, we've got a dry well right outside here, that we've punched on this side, we've punched one down there. And there was talk of punching one up high and, the people above to that side did, and anyway, the guy I was talking to said, I do it for a living and wouldn't do it there. He'd be glad to take our money though.
okay.
Yeah, no, and those were some of those conversations and Scott and I've had is that if there's a big term solution that's coming to this, can we navigate this for the duration of another year, maybe a little plus, and get into a situation where we don't have to worry about that anymore?
I guess one other thing with transportation, I kind of forgot, and anymore to get a CDL, you have to go take a class from a certified instructor. You go to Billings, it costs you $5,000. We've got a certified instructor here. If you drive bus for us, it costs nothing. I know the people I've talked to that I've got in to take stuff, that was kind of a deal breaker or a deal maker, excuse me. So anyway, that if you're finding somebody and they're interested, you've got that tidbit that it doesn't cost anything to get trained up to drive bus, but it does cause a lot of people to say they'll drive bus and get through to get their CDL and leave. We've run into that a little bit. I guess, no big deal. Anything else?
We don't put any type of stipend on that, then if they go through the class, they have to stay for like.
We haven't. I've got stung once and we've got 3 people. We certainly could. I don't know as it's, they're getting their CDL to drive for the church and the community. So,
I mean, if it's for another.
yeah,
within the community, that makes
we
sense.
haven't had anybody do it to get a commercial license and take off, so. It might annoy you, but I don't know as I would draw that line yet. Yep.
Well, I guess we could look at that, making that committee.
We could run that through our financial committee if you want.
You want to do, financial committee? Is that where you want?
We
to do
could.
it?
Yep. I'd kind of talked to Scott a little bit about that. So that's one then that I could set up if we're interested in moving in that direction. So we could pull that together and go from there.
It sounds like we're gonna have to do something, one way or the other, because you're not gonna be able to keep going at this rate.
I believe we've got to do something, yes.
Okay.
Then that's something you're gonna have, I mean, depending on what comes out of that committee, you might have to go to the union, right? I mean, if you're gonna throw money at it,
Yeah, you'd have to
You'd
go
have to
through
go
the
through
union
the
if you were
union
gonna,
and-
if you're gonna make any change, you'd have to go through the union. I gotta believe if we're putting more money, we're not gonna get hobbled up too bad. Sometimes those bargaining units will try to bite you. And to say I think we can get through it, that's no more than a guess, cause
well, I think the last few years we've tried to throw money at transportation and it gets shot down.
and I think we could look at, when we do that, and I gotta check, I've got to call out. That contract, that's the minimum you pay. And I think we've got the ability to pay more. And I say that based on a couple things, and I guess don't really want to share them here, but
Yeah.
I think we can.
Okay.
I would have to
That
get
may
a
be
hold of
something
the
we'd have to
union
look
rep
at.
and
I just
show him
know
what we're actually
For
doing
sure.
before we got a thumbs up or
When
down.
we've
You know, and-
negotiated, there's been like,
Yeah.
let's put money to it. I mean, like 2 years ago, we tried that, was just getting transportation up.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like they got a bigger bump than
Yep.
some of the other parts
Yeah.
of it, and it was shot down.
Right.
But I think at the time, I don't know if we had Woody even when we presented it, he wasn't there at that meeting
Yeah.
to kind of go, no, this is, so I don't know if like having, I'm sure Woody will be there and stuff, but if having someone from the union. at
Well, you
the
know,
financial meeting,
like, yeah, no, and we've
not their
talked
rep,
about,
but maybe someone within the district,
Right.
part of like a Woody that could help.
Yeah,
Sure.
the biggest fear I have there is they get in there and we don't take action and they go talk to their members and now they're hurt that they're not.
Yeah.
we can kind of, Garrett, just start from there too.
Yeah.
Like Scott said, I mean,
That's
there's, you know, I'm familiar with, and like Scott mentioned, he's not necessarily a huge fan of it. But you know, that ability, which then we'd be navigating within the teachers union if we brought in then the teacher slash, you know, bus driving option and stuff. So there'd be some things to navigate in with that system. But that might be a way that we don't then have to jump back into Teamsters and open up that agreement as we're moving into HEA and some of those this year. So this was more of just kind of like a starting point.
Yeah.
Where we could start and then just kind of put, you know, do some research and put a lot of options on the table. And then from there, if we kind of narrow down to what we really want, then we kind of move in that direction. So just kind of a starting point, but you know, Scott and I've been talking about it with Holly and, you know, we've all been brainstorming and we've had some potential just short-term fixes right now that are working, but we all see that like, hey, this is something we should, you know, try to have a bigger picture with.
The one that's made the most impact here recently is splitting a route. I had a gal say, yeah, I wouldn't mind coming into town and driving, but I don't want to come into town twice. I said, is your preference the morning or afternoon? She says, I don't care. I do one, but I don't want to do both just because, well, you know, they're coming in from out of town, it breaks their day up. So I've kind of got her in my back pocket. If I can find another person that would fit, I could put that other route back on. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I got a gal I've been talking to and we'll see if she wants to try to drive a vehicle that big. That's kind of the issue right now. So anyway, that's the one I've had luck with. I've got 3 people to do it. And 4 would be great. Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Okay, E3, the policy revisions starting in October.
Yeah, so in October, we're gonna start getting then all of the policy revisions from the year from MTSBA. So those will all be coming in. Along with that, there's 3 policies we'll start next month that we'll have to have two readings on, but there's gonna be a revision to 3141, which is our out of district students. So as that process continues to move, right, that's kind of a working document for everyone in the state in terms of what are you doing and is this aspect of what we do make sense, right? Because now it's involving tuition and executive sessions and there's just a lot to it. So I, you know, talked with Chris Goss at MTSBA and he has kind of a revised version of what we adopted here at Havre Public Schools that he thinks might be a better fit. So we'll look at that in October, as well as then the cell phone policy. So if you've been following that at all in the news with Governor Gianforte, he put out a letter right at the start of school urging schools to do something with their cell phone policies, right? The hard part is, as you know, we adopt handbooks, then we start moving forward. And then this letter comes out and says, let's take a look at what you're doing, and maybe it's not enough to address those needs. So I thought before I brought it to your attention that I'd visit with my administrative team, get their feedback, which I did today. So as the policy that I put before all of you next month, will have the vision of what my administrative team feels like would be a good solution to this. So that'll be coming out in October. And then Haley and Holly and I and Cheryl have been discussing early literacy and retention, which is 2165 and then 2421. So we've come up with some ideas in terms of what we'll want to do for our early literacy programs within the district, as well as retention and how that impacts kindergarten now and the differences with that. So when we talk about those policies too, I was going to have Cheryl also speak to you from her standpoint on some of the things that she sees that are impactful in her area with that. But those are three big ones that'll be coming next month.
What was the cell phone policy number? Just so we can look ahead of.
36.3.
3630.
Yep.
Any questions or comments for Brian on that? E4, our learning walks.
Yeah. So we started that program last year. As you know, used to be the Yellow Bus Tour. Kind of modified it a little bit when I got here to Havre Public Schools in an effort to also shore up some different educational pieces that I thought would be important for you to hear from the principals. Last year, I know when we did that as a group, I felt like our board really appreciated talking with the principals. So today we kind of talked through their vision of what they want to do, whatever format they want to give you a little presentation about their building, maybe what's new and happening this year in Lincoln McKinley, for instance, whatever that looks like. Then they'll kind of give you what kind of the hot topics are, things they're working on this year in their school, as well as then we'll take a look through the classrooms and examine the facilities following that tour. Hopefully this year the weather will be better. And when we go back, we can actually take a look at also all the outside facilities, which last year, remember, we kind of had to take a time out because the weather was just too rough. And I think we had one board member that slid through Northern's lawn, and we just decided, in an effort to be safe. And I'm not naming any names, but anyway, yeah, the initials are, but then we'll go back to Robbins and have lunch and just kind of discuss a game plan in terms of facilities and what you think going from there. So if you can make that, I hope you can. It'll be October 29th. And I will, as it gets closer, I'll send out an agenda of the specific times and routes and all that. Already been visiting with Scott and Woody, and Woody was happy to do it again in the electric bus if you want, or maybe take a cruiser this time, who knows? So, but we'll have that all set up for you.
Okay, E5, our committee work.
Yep. And then lastly, we will start next month, the committee work for the year. And so most of those committees, as you know, then I'll chair, but there's also certain committees when it comes to curriculum and some of those areas that Holly will be reaching out to you 4 times on that. So just know that we'll communicate via invites on the email, and then we'll just get moving forward in that process. Typically, those are just once a month meetings with specific agendas that both Holly and I will lay out for you at that time.
And we can try and send out a reminder of what your committee assignments were.
Yes.
Just so you're thinking about that before.
Sure.
October, maybe the next week we can get
You
that
bet.
out. And that would be a good reminder for where you're at. Some of you volunteered for lots, and I think I got off the ball. Except for negotiations. Everybody wanted to be on them, so I just said, okay. F2 correspondence.
Yes. Yeah, I had one email that I wanted to share with the board. So as you know, we've been, I spoke briefly with the board, I think at our special session about test and the work they've been doing in our buildings. And so I received this email from Tiffany Anderson. So she's one of the head directors at Test. So she just wanted to share this with me. She said, she just wanted to let us know that our staff has been amazing to work with. They're such go-getters. It makes it out the job to be so much more enjoyable when you see districts utilizing the entire solution. And then she just goes on to just kind of reference the fact that a lot of times when new systems come into those districts, the people sometimes are hesitant to use them, right? Because it's a change in operation procedures and it seems a little overwhelming. And, I know we've got this function, but let's just kind of keep things moving as they do. Where she, makes note that Havre Public Schools and the administrative team that she's met with just jumped into it with like great gusto and is using all the functions. In fact, today when I met with my principals, some of them were very adamant to say, hey, this one particular feature doesn't work. So then I visited with her later this afternoon. So when they come in to handle the middle school, because that's the only building right now that isn't up and going just based on equipment availability. So they're coming in next week to then shore up the middle school. They'll also visit with then those other principals in those buildings to make sure that it's up and working. So, and I think, Mr. Nitz can speak loudly about this. The playlists in the high school, the kids adore. Coda, what do you think? Awesome. Right? Right. So that's been not only a lot of fun, I think, for our staff and our student body, but it's made a big difference in terms of safety and bells and paging and all those little things that we do. So in terms of us utilizing that grant, it's nice to hear feedback like that from from the leads on that to say you guys are doing an awesome job with it.
The middle school was our last one to get completed, but that should be done
Next week. Yep.
I don't have anything. Coda, do you have anything from the Havre High School student body? Sure, you can do that, or you can grab a microphone, however you would like to do it, or more comfortable with it. We're actually really excited that you're here. We like to hear what's going on at the high school, and so if we need to move your report somewhere in our meeting, we can do that, or if you're comfortable with it here.
No, this works right here. So, Havre High is off to a great start. Our football, volleyball, cross-country teams are all competing very well. We had a couple games, our blue and white scrimmage, all that stuff. Our marching band and our color guard performed at the halftime at the football game Friday night. They're getting close to having their full performance done. I think they're doing that at the end of the month. They're showcasing that. Various clubs such as Key Club, Close Up, and Skills USA have began meeting various times, like during lunch or advisory after school, stuff like that. Pep Club is planning for homecoming. Homecoming royalty nominations are this week. Voting will take place on Thursday. Also with homecoming, the coronation will be Wednesday, September 25th. Homecoming Pep Assembly will also be on Wednesday. Our homecoming parade will be Friday, September 27th at 3:30 p.m. Student Council is reaching out to the student body for Suicide Prevention Week. We are handing out wristbands. I have some right here. Got them this morning. They're handing out also pins and stickers. This is either at the start of the day or at lunch. I know we did it at the start of the day. People coming in through the west doors or the ones by the office. So all these have like positive messages on it regarding Suicide Prevention Week. I think that's really nice. We are also helping Miss Kreiner out next week with her Literacy Under the Lights event next Thursday. And that's all I have from the student body. So thanks for letting me share it with you guys. I appreciate it a lot.
Thanks.
Great job, Coda.
Thank you for the update on that, because sometimes we don't know everything that's going on in the high school. So it's good to hear those updates and see what's going on. So thank you. Now we are, at this point, we're on to our executive session. At this time, we are going to close the meeting. We will go into executive session. We have a matter of individual rights of privacy that exceeds the public's right to knowledge. And so we will be closing that. If there's, do we have any members? Okay. All those people that are not on the board or crucial to this will be asked to leave the room. We will take a 5-minute recess and reconvene at 7:30. So at 7:30, we'll close the doors and come back in session. Seven 42, and we will come back into the open session. Very. Okay. There is motion on the table for our.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve students 1 through 3 for enrollment in Havre Public Schools.
Second.
I'll second.
Garrett, second by Kristen, we approve students 1 through 3 for enrollment in school. Favor, raise your hand. Entertain a motion to reconvene at our next regularly scheduled meeting on September 24th at
So moved.
second.
Second.
Any